Hello everyone and welcome to another Daily Dose of Drupal. Today we are on episode number 203 and we're going to be going over the Views module. Before we get started, I am Shane Thomas. You can follow me on Twitter at smthomas3. Also make sure to head on over to codekarate.com, check out all of the posts, make sure to get your free Code Karate sticker, and see what else is going on the codekarate.com website. So what is the Views module? This has been one that I've been thinking of doing for a long time and just never got around to it because of how complex it is. And it's very difficult to explain succinctly. So what I'm going to do is try to break it down and go over just some of the high-level overview stuff of views. And then in the future I might have additional videos on more detailed concepts within views. So first of all, what is a view? Well, a view is, you can sum it up as a list of content or a list of data being displayed on your Drupal website. So for instance, on the codekarate.com site, you'll notice there is a list of blog posts or videos, articles. This main list is a view. And that's just one example. Anytime you want to take data and list it in some kind of format, the Views module can do that. So how does this data how do you actually display this data? Well, this data could be anything such as your blog posts, your pages, any node content in your Drupal website. The data can also be users, so you could list users from your Drupal website, or any other type of entity such as products if you're using Drupal Commerce, or any other entity that's exposed to views. And because Drupal is database driven, almost everything you enter into the Drupal interface, the admin interface, can be displayed using views. So if you go to the Drupal.org views page, views project page, you can see that it has been installed an extremely large number of times. I believe it's the most popular Drupal 7 module based on installs. The current version is 7.x-3.10, so you want to make sure you have that installed on your Drupal 7 website. In order to do that, you're also going to need the CTools module, so you're going to want to make sure you grab that as well. And here I have a test site. It's a brand new site. The only modules that are installed are CTools and Views. So if we take a look at that, and we scroll down, you'll notice that Chaos Tools is checked, and Views UI is also checked. And the reason that Views and Views UI are two separate modules is the actual Views module itself handles kind of all of the heavy lifting, so to speak, and the Views UI is just the user interface to create and manage your views. So what this means is if you wanted to move your view to a live website, or if you didn't want the view to accidentally get changed by somebody, you could turn off the Views UI and then you would no longer have to worry about someone changing it. It could save a little bit on performance, so that's just an option. So once you have those enabled and installed, you need to then make sure you have some content that we're going to display. In this case, I just have 4 example articles, and we're going to go over creating a new page displaying these articles, and then also a block. So we're going to create 2 views in this episode. You'll notice that by default, articles automatically display on the front page of a Drupal website, but this isn't always the case. You might not always want your articles to display on the front page. So in that case, you may want to create a view listing these articles. So in order to do that, go to the structure page and look for views. By default, there's a bunch of views that are not turned on when you install the Views module. You can enable these. We're not going to do that now, but you just know that they're there. We're going to click this Add New View button. We're going to call this view Articles. You can provide a description, which is just for you to see. And now you select what kind of data you want to show. Do you want to show content? Do you want to show users, comments, taxonomy terms? If you installed different modules, you may have different options. If you install Drupal Commerce, for instance, you'll have commerce products here. In this case, we're going to just show content. Now you can select the type of content you want to display. In this case, we want to only show article content. You could also specify you only want to show certain tags if it's tagged with a certain term, and you can also select how you want it sorted. Here you can select to create a page or create a block. In this case, we're just going to show how to create a page, and we'll come in later and show that you can still add a block even if you don't set it up initially in the initial views creation wizard. So let's go ahead and say it's going to be called articles. You select the path, which is going to also be articles. You can then select a display format. A display format is how you want it actually to show up on your site. An unformatted list is just a list of divs, if you're familiar with HTML, that just basically outputs the content as basic as you can think. Just a big list. You could have this as a grid, so if you wanted it as a 3x3 grid or a 2x2 grid, if you're doing images or showing images, that's often helpful. An HTML list just provides it in an HTML list format. A table is an HTML table, and we're not going to go over a jump menu at this time. You can then select if you want to show teasers, the full post, or fields. We'll leave it as teasers for now, but we'll also show what some of those other options are a little bit later in the video. So we're going to leave the rest of these as the default. We'll select 10 items to display, use the pager, and we'll hit continue and edit. Okay, so now you're going to see this interface, and after you use views for a while, this will become second nature, but the first time you see it, it can be a little bit intimidating. So we're going to go over a bunch of these sections, but before we do, we're just going to click Save. That's going to save our view, and we're going to open this up by clicking View Page, and I'm going to open this in a new tab here, so we can come back and forth easily. And you'll see we're at our site/articles. And it's just a list of our articles. So it's very similar to the front page, but it's not exactly the same. You can see that it's different. And we're going to go through how to actually edit this and what this is actually displaying. You'll notice when I'm on the view, when I'm actually looking at it, if I'm an admin, I get this little wheel over here. You can click that and go to Edit View, and that's going to take you back to this page here. So let's go through this. Let's go through what a view really is. This first option here is the display name. This is what's going to show up here. You can add different displays within your view, and we'll do that when we add our block a little bit later. The title is what title actually shows up on the page. In this case, what title shows up here. So we're going to change that to just say My Articles, just show how that works. The next is the format. So you can select how you want the format to show up. Just to show how it works, let's change this to an HTML list, and we'll hit Apply All Displays. We're going to leave everything at its default and just save it as an unordered list. And we're going to click Save. Now if we come back to this page and refresh, you'll notice there's a bullet point on each of these. And that's because it's now an HTML list rather than just an unformatted list. You'll also notice the title changed. So we're going to go ahead and change that back to an unformatted list. Leave everything here as its default and click Apply. The next section here is what to show. We selected to show the teasers, which is a teaser is just a kind of a summarized article in this case, and you can click on it to read the full article. But there may be cases where you want to show just specific fields, and we will do that when we create the block view here in a little bit. And if you create fields, this section will open up, so we can't do anything there now. But some important parts of what makes this view actually work. Filter criteria. This lets you filter down what type of content you actually want to show on your site. So first of all, it's checking, is the content published? Yes. So let's click on that. So we could select, do we want to show published content or not published content? In this case, it defaults to showing only published content. And what type of article, so content type equals article. If we wanted to change that, we could click on it and say we want to show basic page, or we want to show all of them. We could, let's say we removed that. Now it would show anything, any content on the site. We can then go in and add in additional filter items. So the way this works is each of these filters gets applied, and each one will filter down which content is actually showed within the view. So let's look through some of these different filters here. So you can see there are things such as comment status, the body, author UID. So if you wanted to only show content by a specific author, you could select that. If you wanted to show only content with after a specific post date, you could use that there. We're going to select content type because we want to re-add that. But just look at, there are a bunch of different options here. And all that the filter criteria allows you to do is filter out the content so less is shown. So each time you add one, it might filter out additional articles in this case. And will slowly reduce the number of pieces of content that are actually shown. The next section is the sort criteria, and this is just to control which order the content is actually displayed in. So you can see right now it's sorting by post date descending. So descending means it's going from Z to A or backwards, or in this case the newest post date first. So my favorite electric guitars post is the most recent post on the site. If we wanted to change that, we could change it to sort ascending, and that's going to flip this. So now you can see this post is now on the bottom. So when you're looking at the views interface, you'll notice I kind of scrolled down and you can see a preview down here. And that's important because it can help you as you're building out your view to really see a summary of what your page is going to look like before you actually go to the page itself. Over here, you have page settings. This is to select the path. You can add a menu item. You can change a specific permission. So only people with a certain permission can actually see this. We're going to go ahead and save this and take a quick look at where it's at right now. So we can go ahead and keep moving forward and get to our block view. So here we have it's sorting with the newest showing up on the bottom. You can of course change that to whatever you want. Typically you'd want that to be descending instead of ascending. You can also add additional sort criteria, get rid of this specific post date sort criteria by clicking remove. You can rearrange the order by clicking rearrange. You can drag these around. In this case, for filter criteria, it doesn't matter, but when we get into the fields option, it might. So let's go through these other quick sections. Header, this is to add anything above your view. So if you want to add additional text up here, additional HTML, you can do that in the header section. The footer section would be to add additional information down here. You can also select a pager, which will show you when we create the block view. So let's go ahead and create that block view right now. In this case, on every page of our site, we want a little block over here that shows the last 3 articles. And it should show, we'll say, the title and the date the article is published. And the article or the title should link to the actual article itself. So we're going to add a new display to our view. You can see there's a couple different options. We could add a new page, but in this case we want to add a block. So we're going to create our block. We're going to go over and change the title. You'll notice here it says for all displays. we don't want that. If we change the title for all displays, it's also going to change the title and our page display as well. So we only want this block. And I'm going to say recent articles. I'm going to hit apply. And for block name, I'm going to also call this recent articles. And this is what's going to actually show up on the block administration page. And instead of showing content here, I'm going to select that and change this to fields. And now you'll see this field section opens up a little bit. I'm going to leave the row style options at their default and hit apply. You'll notice though, if I go back to page, now this has been changed to fields. And the reason that was because I didn't select to only do it on this block. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back to show you that if I apply it, I want the teaser mode. If I go back, it also changes it over here. And so in order to kind of separate these, because I want these to be two completely different displays, when I click here, I need to make sure I select only for this block. That way it'll keep these two so they're different. They can be separate. They're not necessarily connected. So by default, it's just showing the title. I can add additional fields, and I'll show you what that does here in just a second. The filter criteria and sort criteria are going to be the same. The only difference is I want to make sure this is descending. Again, I only want it on this block. I want to let my page stay the way it is. And over here in the pager, I'm going to change this to only show 3 items. And I'm going to hit apply all displays, and I'm going to show you what that pager is, and you're definitely familiar with it, and it looks just like this. It has the next, the last, so you can go between different pages of content. So let's go ahead and hit save here, and let's come back to our My Articles page and make sure everything still looks the way it was before. Everything looks good. Now we're going to add that block to show up over here. So if you go into structure and you click on blocks, we're going to go down and find the recent articles block, and we're going to bring that up into the sidebar first and drop it in right there and click save. You can come in and configure this block if you want. If you want to change or override the title, you can do that. If you only want to show it on specific pages, anything that you can normally do with a block, you can do with a views block. But now, if we refresh, you can see recent articles is now showing up. It has my favorite electric guitars, favorite sports moments, and it has this pager here. Well, first thing you notice is that the pagers are connected between these two. Well, I don't want that. Again, I didn't select to only change the pager on the block, so it also added a pager to my main articles list. So I'm going to go back into a view, and I'm going to go back to page and make sure, actually I'm going to go back to block, change this back to 10. That's what it was by default. That'll change it on the page as well. And I'm just going to override the block because, again, and this is one important thing you're going to notice, if you want these two displays to be different, you have to make sure you're very conscious of selecting this for option. So in this case, for this block. So I'm going to set this as 3, apply to this display only. And I'm also going to add a new field in here. I'm just going to look for post date, and you can of course search using the little search field. So I want to show the post date. And let's hit apply. You'll notice that this one is still set as content. This one is now set as fields still. Let's hit save. And let's go back to this page and refresh. You'll see it now has the post date. It says post date. We're going to get rid of that. But another thing you'll notice if you click next, it completely loads the page, and then it no longer shows your articles. This is kind of an interesting little bug, I guess. It's not necessarily a bug, but a little trick with views. Because it's the same view, Views thinks that if you page on this little view, the big view should also be paged. So in this case, we want to change this, and we're just going to go over to the advanced section here, and in this block section, we're going to say use Ajax. We're going to check that, and for this block, make sure we're overriding. We want to use Ajax, and I'll show you what that does. So now if we save it, and we refresh, typically you don't want two of the same view showing up on the same page. In this example, we're kind of showing that, but it's not typically what you'd want to do. Now if I click next here, you'll notice that it changes the pager here without affecting the main view over here. And what the Views Ajax does is it no longer needs to reload the entire page, it just reloads this one little section. So there's our block view. Here's our main view, our page view, listing all of our articles. We're going to go over a quick few of these advanced options, and then we're going to wrap up here. So contextual filters. You might be wondering what a contextual filter is. Well, that's used to pass information into your view. And by passing information into your view, you can limit out specific types of content. So you may want to be able to pass in a taxonomy term and have that limit out which content you're actually displaying in your view. Relationships would be to link different types of content or different types of data. So in this case, every piece of content, every article has an author. If you wanted additional information about that author, such as their email address or when they created their account, the date, you could create a relationship to that author and pull in additional information to display within this field section. Or you could also filter by it, you could sort by it, all those things. So it basically links different types of data. No results behavior simply allows you to add text or HTML to show up if your view does not have any results. So if there were no articles, you could say you wanted to say there are no articles on this site or something like that. An exposed form, we're not going to cover that right now, and all these other options, you can read through them. Most of them you're not going to need too often, and that's why it is in the advanced section. And these other options aren't things you're going to use on every view, but they are helpful. And so again, we'll probably cover some of these in additional videos on the Views module. So you learned today how to create a simple view, a page view, to display articles. You also learned how to create a block view to display a list of recent articles. And you learned a little bit about what the Views module does, how it works. And the Views module is really cool because if you're familiar with writing PHP code, you'll know that in the past you had to write a whole bunch of PHP and a whole bunch of what's called SQL to pull information from the database. And these SQL queries, as they're called, often got extremely long and tedious and repetitive just to display something as simple as a list of content. But because Drupal is all database driven, and because the Views module exists, now there's a tool that you can use to easily display different types of content, different types of data on your Drupal site in any type of list form that you would ever need. So go ahead and spend a bunch of time with views. If you're creating Drupal websites, you're going to use views a lot. It's pretty much on every single Drupal website I've ever created, and it'll be on most of the websites you'll create as well. So thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to check out codekarate.com, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.